stats, man. That'd be great.
Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And we are live. What you really need to do post breakup. This is something I've obviously talked about on my channel with, I don't know, 900 to 1,000 videos already. But it's something that you go back to because dealing with people post breakup, it seems like similar to new things come up, and then some things to myself are like, wow, this really needs to be punched home. It's kind of like a lot of people watch Corey Wayne, who I have a lot of respect for, and he tells you to read his book 10 times, and it's kind of like a funny thing to a lot of people, but repetition does make you remember things and act on it subconsciously, so there's some value to that. But talking about this subject again, which I've talked about before, like I said, there's some value in this. And actually, if you're in a relationship or you're out of a relationship or you're single right now or you're treading water or you're in that damn gray area where you're like, should I get back with them or should I not get back with them? Should I call them? It doesn't matter. This all applies to you right now because the thing I'm about to tell you is something you should do today, right now. I'll be back in 10 minutes to tell you that. No, I'm just joking. The cliffhanger. No, tell me now. First, we'll have 15 commercials, and then I'll tell you. No, real talk. If you want a live coaching session, go to writemac.com. If you want to send in your story to be read on one of my YouTube videos, send it into writemac.com. So, going into this day, the reason why I'm talking about this is I've been dealing with a lot of different people that are in breakups where they need to go. Okay, so what I mean by that, it's like you're chasing or you're in a relationship that is spoiled. And I don't mean like a spoiled kid. I mean like spoiled fruit, spoiled vegetables. It's messed up. It's not something you want to revisit. And you know it. You actually know it. But because you still have some love, or one of the ones that comes up a lot is that, we were really good. Like we had a really good 1 year. When we're really good, we're really good. So I get it, right? But then when you unpack everything, you unfold everything, and it's so much easier from my seat, from my aerial view with no feelings entangled, to just be honest and upfront and go, hey, look, this doesn't line up. And there's plenty of times I've talked to people in breakups and been like, you can revisit this. When it's a distance situation or it's something that is fixable, there hasn't been a lot of wreckage on the road. There's times where this doesn't always apply. But when you've tried, or when you've been beaten down, or when you're with someone that just doesn't match up well with you, and one of the big ones, is people getting involved with other people that aren't mentally stable. And I'll give you one example that I'm not going to say that's necessarily clinically medically unstable, right? Let's say someone has a kid out of wedlock, meaning they have a kid, they're no longer with the partner anymore. They got a full-time job. They live with their parents. They just broke up with the dad of the child. And they've been with that person for 4 or 5 years. It's a first love situation. You following me, B?
Yeah.
You follow me? Right. So, and you jump into a relationship with someone like that, and they just broke up a month ago, and they tell you, hey, I don't know if it's a good time for me to be in a relationship, but you think, hey, no, I'll be there for you. Now, everything starts out rose petals, wine glasses, romance is good, intimacy is good, and then all of a sudden something happens. Now think back, if you have a good memory, what I just told you. Has a kid, has a full-time job, lives with the parents. Let's just sprinkle in, has some issues with the parents. Doesn't like her dad for a variety of reasons, but has to live there for financial reasons. Doesn't like the dad of the kids she had, but has to interact with that dad because it's the father of her child. And you start a relationship with that individual. Now, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people out there that are really insensitive, like, oh, she's gone Danny, and she's just kick her to the curb. She's for the street. I'm not going there with that. I'm not going to go there with that. That's not my approach. Because honestly, what people don't get, there's this big movement on YouTube of humiliating people. I like to joke around. I like to tease people and stuff. And there was a time in my life where I might have gone that route, but it's a little overboard now, where it's like these people got some real issues they're battling. That being said, if you are an individual that's got things going on in your life that are pretty crisp, clean, quality, job's pretty smooth, you're elevating, you're doing well, and you pull one of these people onto your boat, good luck. Because here's the thing. You're going to end up having to put them first because they need so much help. I need help with my kid. I need help with my finances. I need you to listen to the shit I have to deal with the baby's dad. I also live with my parents, and sometimes there's some drama, so I want you to listen to that, right? And then people come to me, they're like, wow, this person I'm with, they're so up and down. It's not you. And then they think it's them. Hey, did I say the wrong thing? Hey, did I mess up? I think I could have picked them up. I could have said the right. No! This person's life is a tornado, and you just entered into it. And a lot of times, they're overwhelmed. And when they're overwhelmed, you're the last person in the soup line. Sometimes, so this is what happens. I just told this guy, that's a really good client of mine yesterday. He sent me an email, which if you do live coaching with me, and a lot of my clients have become repeat clients, not because they're bad at relationships, just because you need to go to someone actually before you break up. I've realized that now. If you come to me for a breakup or someone else and you have a good experience, that could be a friend, family, or colleague, whatever, then you should say, hey, that's my person for this. Now they know me. We got some background. I know who to go to for it. Mac was there for me already. He knows my background. So anything I have in the future with some bad relationship, I'm going to book an appointment with them, send them a quick email, right? And then you don't get entangled in this thing so deeply because like, all right, Mac gave me good advice before. Now I'm getting out in front of this before it gets really dirty and I get my heart thrown to the street. So basically, in this situation, he's dealing with this woman that's got a kid, lives with family, right? Has an ex that's not the best of people. Wasn't ready for a relationship, but then was. What kind of relationship do you? I mean, from the outside in, someone can easily go, "Oh, I would never do that." Right? But let's just say this. Let's say you do because you're attracted to them. Because attraction prevails. Right? Attraction, and let me add one more thing. Intimacy prevails. And I'm going to add another thing. Intimacy, if you haven't had intimacy in a long time, is like water if you've been walking in the desert 100 miles and you go, that's the most delicious, best water I've ever had in my life. Can I please have some more? And then you go, I'm a water drinker for the rest of my life, right? And this is what happens. Like some people that I talk to, it's like, why are you in this bad relationship? Well, yeah, the intimacy's been great. They almost think of it like as a side note. That's not what it's all about, though. But why would you put up with an up and down relationship, twists and turns, if you weren't getting some kind of sweets, right? If you weren't getting some kind of reward. So that's usually what it is. And people are like, oh, that's not what I'm all about, man. Right? Especially guys, it's not all that. We have a really good connection. A lot of times I'm just going to call it bullshit. I mean, because the way sometimes you're dealing with the way you're being treated, and then you're saying, yeah, I just don't know, and you start blaming yourself, you really got to stop and look at the person's personal life. And here's a big one. Are you putting them first and they're putting you last? Or second, third? And this is what happened recently when I was talking to this other guy, is I just told him in an email. I said, hey, look, and I'll actually share what I wrote. Let me see here. I don't know if I just lost the stream for a moment there. Oh no. So check your phone if it's still on. Real professional here. Real professional. Ah. Okay. I lost it. I lost the stream in front of me with the comments on the side. All right. Hold on here. Oh, I'm just gonna have to go off the cuff here. So basically what happened was that when I was talking to this guy, it got to the point where I said, look, she's being impulsive. She's got way too much going on outside of you. And this happens a lot, right? If you're all in on a relationship and they're not all in on you, this happens a lot. What ends up happening? Hey, why aren't they seeing things the way I'm seeing it? Well, because you put them here and they put you here. There's gonna be some hurt feelings, and then you're like, how do I get them to that point? I said, for you, she comes first. For her, it depends on the day and time. You know why? Because she's got so many outside things that you don't even have. Now, that's what makes it difficult when someone's got a kid involved, right? And I'm not saying that it can't work. It can, absolutely. It can. There's got to be a lot of stability and maturity involved, right? But what happens a lot of times, and you got to be able to deal with this, you're not always going to be first. Someone's got a kid. I would hope the kid comes first, right? You get in a new relationship, sometimes you're going to say, hey, no, we can't do that weekend. Hey, we can't do this. Hey, I was up all night with the kid. Hey, I was this. Hey, I got to go meet my ex to, and we're going to have lunch because we need to talk about the kids' preschool and shit, right? That's going to happen, and you're going to go, oh, where does that leave me? That's what you're walking into, right? So he's got all these up and down things that he keeps trying to put out these fires for her. And you can't figure it out. So I said, this woman will drive you nuts. Cut anchor. Stop trying to figure her out and start the process of moving on. It's fucked up. It's not easy. It hurts, but it's the right thing to do for you. Now, here's the most important thing I told him. You're not the one that needs to change. It's so important to hear that sometimes, man or woman in a breakup, is you think like, wow, I really messed up here because this didn't work. No, the circumstances were messed up. You were on two different playing fields. It probably never was going to work. But if you get it in your head like, because this is what people do now. They throw darts and they want you to somehow be like them. And so they'll make comments like, you just don't listen, or you're narcissistic, or you're this or you're that. And you're like, am I? No. That's why it's good to talk to me or talk to someone else. Have some outside person let you know that doesn't have feelings entangled, isn't going to throw darts your way to try to make you feel somehow less. It's very important.
There's no ulterior motives there.
Yeah, it's very important, because if you somehow think like, I messed up, I was wrong, I was insensitive, I was this, you keep backpedaling and explaining yourself. But if you, like yesterday when I sent him this email, he's like, God, I needed to hear that. He did need to hear that, because he knows it's not just me trying to be nice, trying to give him, like a trophy for participation in the breakup. Here you go, bud. Great effort. I've listened, we've talked a few times. He knows I'm telling him the truth. And it's true. It's like, that's the thing. You got to go through the hurt right now. It's not easy, but you're the one that's in a great position to move forward, flourish, move on. And it's just going to take time in the meantime. It's going to take being lonely. It's going to take being hurt a little bit. But don't start taking the blame when you enter it into something where, like I said, you're entering into someone else's life in a relationship. And if there's attraction and intimacy, you're blinded to all the other crap. And then when you're together longer and longer, you're like, oh, okay, I'll deal with that. Can we hook up later? I'll deal with that. Yeah, can we just go back to being, rose petals and wine glasses again? Oh, I'll deal with that. And then all of a sudden you're just like, what is this? Just eating shit sandwiches for lunch by yourself, texting back like, oh, I'm sorry. It's unbelievable. This happens again and again and again. And I'm just wondering, where does it end for people, right? And what it is a lot of times it's this. It's I don't want to feel like I wasted my time. I've invested time in this, Mac. I've put some time into this, man. Don't you understand that? I've put some real time.
I've invested time,
right?
Mac.
And when you think about that, so what? You know how many times that I thought I messed up? It's just another event in your life, another chapter. And guess what? There were some good times and there were some bad times. But you try. It's like some of these relationships, they're on life support, and then they get revived, and then they're on life support, right? But the person that's on life support is smoking cigarettes, doing hard drugs, and doing it to themselves, right? And you keep reviving these people, and then they just and then you're like, oh my God, they did it again. Right? And you're like, hey man, do you think you can quit smoking cigarettes? No, I can't. All right, well, it just happens again and again. Over and over again, right? I've said this a long time ago, right? 2 wounded birds can't make one fly, right? 1 wounded bird. Wow. Someone just keeps. Do you see this live stream right now? No. One wounded bird that doesn't want help. Can't get help, right? So, going back to the topic here. Hold on a sec. Here's the thing. Hold on a sec here. Relationships are hard work. If it doesn't work, it's not time wasted. It's more like life lesson where you figure out what you want for the next. Modern shrink. What a great name. What does it mean to be a modern shrink? That's a good question. If I've thought about this before, modern shrink. Isn't things change so much for a psychiatrist or a shrink if they're going to follow like Freud and some of the, I don't know, textbooks and things on that because of social media and the internet? It's changed everything about the psyche, right? How do you feel about that, modern shrink? Relationships are hard work. If it doesn't work, it's not time wasted. It's more like life lesson where you figure out what you want for the next. I agree, and that's actually exactly where I was going with this modern shrink. So we'll add to Modern Shrink that you're actually a psychic. So anyways, what I was going to say is what you need to do is write out what you want in the next person. And I don't think, I know I've never done that before. And I've heard of people doing like poster boards. You know what I'm talking about? Poster boards and different things like that, right? And what you want. But I do think there's a lot of value in like sitting down and like, you do it with jobs, right? What kind of job do you want? You write out what you want for the job. You write out those things. I don't know if people do it too often when they come out of a breakup. And I would say like people believe they have a type, right? Like I have this type or I have that type, and it's usually physical. And then there's the cliche like I want someone that is healthy and a good sense of humor. Mm-hmm. Right? Who doesn't want someone with a good sense of humor, right? Right? The most like you said, the most generalized things. And I wonder sometimes, I'm like, does it need to be more specific? Absolutely. I would add writing in what kind of job or career you'd want that person to have. Now, someone would be like, well, how could you predict that? It would be nice to have a target where you're like, I'd like someone that's also a modern shrink, which is possible, right? I'd like someone in the same field as me, but being specific, right? Because what people's jobs and careers, especially when you're looking into long-term relationships, affect relationships. So you targeting or writing down like I want a nurse or I want this or I want that, and you could put 3 different ones. You're more likely to find someone like that if you have it on your list, right? And if you have some habits or some hobbies or some things that they like to do, you could add that.
I think that's huge.
Right. But you could write them out specifically. Camping, fishing. There was a guy that I had as a client that was an avid fly fisherman, right? That's all he did. And he went to like a fly fisherman camp, and one of the guides was a female, and he was blown away that he found another female that was into camping, fly fishing. They had this bond, He sent me the message like, obviously they still had issues because it doesn't add up to everything, right?
But there were certain things that lined up.
Well, I mean, it helps, and I think that a lot of times we're just going on being opportunist, right? What everyone goes, stay with me on this modern shrink, Rob IS. Everyone goes, oh, what are you going to do for your job? Where are you going to go to school when you're young? It's like, why not in your 20s? What kind of woman do you want? Do you ever even get asked that question?
I don't think so.
It's a good question, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then now the big theme would be like, oh, for a woman, like what kind of, maybe the woman says, oh, I want a guy making $100,000. Right? This is a big theme now on YouTube. Okay, whatever. So if that's the case, you need to get more specific than that, right? What's the job? What's the kind of person? But if you're gonna find some of these people, it's good to kind of write out what those would be. And someone might be like, oh, you can't find someone that way. You got a better chance at it. Then you ask yourself, where do these people hang out? Am I even the kind of person that this, right?
That would be in the situation.
Right? Yeah. I remember, this is going to blow people away. I remember I did valet parking. This is crazy.
Where is it?
UCSF.
Okay.
UCSF is it's not downtown, but it's a major hospital, sure. Right, in San Francisco. And I just did it part time. It was right when the right when the economy crashed, what, 2007 or something like that. 2007, 2008. I was in real estate and whatnot. A buddy of mine was the manager of this company, and he was like, you want to just make some quick extra cash and stay busy? And I wasn't really excited about it, but I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. And my friends, a couple of my friends that were younger than me worked there, so I went and did it. It was a great life experience. It's not. I did it for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and you didn't have to sign your life away or anything like that to work it.
Jobs where you just go.
Right. But there was a guy there that he was like in his early 20s, drinker, big time toker, right? And he ended up with a doctor. I remember just being like, damn, dude, you got a doctor as a girlfriend? He's like 22, 23. Mind you, he was like 6'1", 6'2". He came from a rich family, but you'd never know it, right? I'm sure maybe the girlfriend knew after a while. He came from a pretty wealthy family, and he was doing valet parking.
It's just not something you would think
He was
of.
doing valet parking, right?
Right. You wouldn't think, oh, valet parker, would be hooking up with
Right.
with a doctor or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going somewhere with this, right? So I remember we were all hanging out in the city in San Francisco and going out for drinks and stuff. And I remember, this is my girlfriend. I was like, oh yeah. And everyone thought, I was like, she's a doctor. And she was, when I say she was, I forgot what level, like a surgeon or something like that, like 28, 29. Pretty good looking. I was like, damn. Back of my head, now some people are going to go, wow, maybe you were hating or something. I wasn't. But in the back of my head, I'm like, how do you, like,
It's just something.
he works at the hospital.
Yeah. Right.
Proximity.
Mhm.
So, I mean, is he more likely to, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not telling everyone to be a valet parking attendant to an area where you meet it.
Right.
But it makes sense, right? It makes sense. And someone goes, oh, I just keep meeting bad matches, or I keep meeting, and I'll ask him, like, where are you hanging out?
Might be your situation.
Like, how many people meet a long-term partner at a bar or club?
Mhm.
You can.
Mhm.
You're probably more likely to have trouble. But I'm saying, at what point in your life or at what age do you say, I'm going to stop being an opportunist when it comes to love? Like, where I'm just going to, whatever it comes across, and, oh, she's cute, and get to know this person, that person, and start kind of filtering for what you want. And like I said, that guy wasn't doing it. It was just by accident. But I was, like I said, I was blown away. I was like, wow. Because they didn't match up. I don't think they ended up staying together. But it's just being in an environment where he would meet a doctor, right?
Okay.
And so when you get out of a breakup, you need to do maybe write out where this person will work, what kind of looks and hobbies they'd have, if they cook well, all these things that you want. And then think to yourself, am I actually qualified to be with someone like this? Would this kind of a person be, right? For example, if you want someone that's in good shape, and that would be a generalization, you'd rather have, I want someone that does specific kind of exercise routine, body, yada, yada, yada.
CrossFit, something.
Right. But are you someone that does that? Right? Are you someone that, has a six pack and, a couple pizzas on the weekend? And you want that? That's the thing that gets twisted a lot of times. And then those kind of people go, oh, these women are so stuck up. It's like, wait a minute. Do you level up? Do you know have you ever noticed that before? I've noticed it from friends, like, oh, she's stuck up, she's this. It's like, do you even have a chance? Would you even be let into the arena for a view? Would security stop you at the gate and say, no, sorry, bud, you don't have the qualifications? No. Instead, you go, oh, man, they didn't let me in. It's like, no, you never had a chance. Relationships are, I'm sorry, Cordell Ogan says you need self-love to help yourself how they want you to be better that you never thought you had. Yep. You need self-love to help yourself how they want you to be better that you never thought you had. How do you do self-love though? I hear this statement a lot, like love yourself. I guess
maybe like improvements in your life. Yeah, I don't know.
How do you love yourself more?
I guess just try to make improvements with yourself, and maybe that was coming.
I actually think that the part that makes you probably love yourself more is doing things more for others and getting positive feedback from doing things for others.
Sure.
As long as you're not getting walked on, it's your pleasure to do them.
Sure. Self-love, like more confidence. I don't know. That's what I think.
It's just one of those statements that I get it.
Yeah, but
How do we go about
Sure,
it? What's the recipe? Every day in the mirror, 5 times. I love you, Mac. I love you, Mac. Change the tone. People continue to meet the same type of people because they keep repeating old patterns. Change your homeostasis norm. You meet new people. Change your environments. Yeah. I would say you're right on both levels, Martin Shrink, and thanks for joining. Um, yeah, I would say that that's true, that your frequency, the way you're acting, because it gets back to my point. If you're going out there identifying all the people you wouldn't date, which seems like this is a big popular thing on YouTube now, right? This is
just hating, hating on.
oh,
Yeah.
all the women are like this. I'm like, so what's the so how do you get the ones you like?
Mhm.
How do you get the ones that you want to be with? But look at all these ones here that are horrible, that are hoes, that are this, that are that. It's like, how do you get to the point where you get the ones that you want? Because there are some ones that you want out there. Because if you're focusing on finding the bad ones, you'll find them all day, every day. And that's one of the issues that keeps coming up. The other thing you want to do, what you really need to do post breakup, is just find out where you were wrong. And if you weren't, the minute you find out, I really wasn't wrong here, bye-bye. Because that's a danger zone when someone makes you feel like you did a bunch of stuff wrong and you're like, actually, I was just trying to help you or this or that. That's dangerous. Modern Shrink, I think it's one of the biggest issues I see online. People make generalizations about all women, all men, and you know what they do to validate it. Modern Shrink. Studies show, a recent study showed they don't discuss. They might have a link or something like that, but the study could be 1,000 people in Boston,
Right.
all men, and it just drives me nuts.
Confirmation bias is kind of brutality.
Well, I mean, also you got to the generalization thing. A lot of people like these generalizations. They're actually just projecting who they are and what their views are. So you say, well, all men do this. Translation, you do that. All women do this to men when they break up. Translation, did that happen to you when you broke up? So now you think it happens to everyone? Oh, hey, you too, Mac, and guest, I forgot his name, sorry. Screwed research. I mean, some of these people that pick these studies up, it's like, oh, this just applies to everything. It's like, well, I mean, you can shape it and do everything you want with it. The reality is that research is never 100% correct. People lie. I mean, there's all kinds of variables to it. But that's the big thing, though. Like, oh, I read this, I saw this. What I like to do with people is focus on the individual, the story, what's going on with you. And the biggest thing, Modern Shrink, I think you'd agree, because you said, you're dealing with people regularly. I think one of the most damning things, if that's a word, damning things, would be labels. I'm a narcissist, recovering. Just say you're a jerk and work from there. Right? I've just realized from my ex-girlfriend that, I'm actually a narcissistic individual, and this is something that came from hey, how about just calling yourself a jerk and working on it? And just going, hey, I'm going to stop doing that. I think big labels, people get attached to them. Self is doing what you always wanted to do, but put someone else first. It's kind of different. It's kind of interesting, though, Cordell, is that putting yourself first and loving yourself first is fine, and doing the things that you want to do. And obviously, there's times though when I think there's a lot to be gained by doing things for other people that are appreciated. That's the other thing. Are you doing? I think what gets lost, and I see this a lot for men, is men want to get appreciated a little bit more.
Appreciate it.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I want to be told I did something good.
I want to be recognized.
They get it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, actually, I just want to. There's never any recognition or appreciation. That happens a lot. That happens a lot, actually. All right, I did have one story. How many we got? We got 10 on deck. Hold on a sec. Let's see here. It's actually a story I was going to share. The other thing you want to do is look at your life if everything went right. If you got your ex back and everything went right. Some people, this is one of the biggest questions I ask in a coaching session, so it's a giveaway to you. And some people don't know. Or they'll go, yeah, it won't even happen. So what are you chasing? Think about that for a moment. You break up and you're in this holding pattern, right? And you're kind of like, I want to get back with them. I don't want to get back with them. Should I call them? How should I react? Got me? But then you go, all right, if everything went right and you got them back, how would that look? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, that wouldn't happen though. Do you get me? So a lot of times you're just plugging a hole because you're lonely. You miss them. You miss the old times. But if everything went right, sometimes guys will do this. I go, do you want her to come back to your door crying and begging for you back? I go, yeah. And then I'll tell her no. A lot of people will just want validation that they got broken up. They want to be able to break up with them. And they don't know it. They're like, no. Like how am I going to? So you have to ask, what's the ideal scenario here? If you don't know that, then what do you even know what you're chasing, right? Come on, Chuckster. Chuckster said, "I'd be dead for real if everything in my life went right." There's a lot of interesting videos on that. It's control. Self-love is also setting boundaries and learning to say no, having self-respect when needed to have the ability to walk away when you see a red flag or mistreated without making excuses with it. Sure, yeah. Right? Pulled up this one story since we got 10 on deck and everyone likes a good story, right? I'll probably Story time, Rob says. Yes, sir. We got 11 on deck, 10 likes. If you want to make a donation, go ahead. It's all good. Hello. I've written to you before about a breakup a long time ago, years now, and you gave good advice, so here I am again. This isn't a breakup, more a dating question. So, if you want to send in something outside of a breakup, I'm fine with that. So I've had more and more people do that. Yeah, dating question. But this is someone that they said that they've sent me. I get a lot of repeat people now that go, actually, this is different than a breakup. I want to ask you. So before it was a breakup, right. I've been seeing this woman off and on for a year. We actually really had a good thing going right before the pandemic hit. Wow, that's a theme for a lot of people. I thought this woman would be moving in with me eventually, and I'm in my late 30s now and have only had 2 girlfriends live with me full time. I don't know why only would be thrown there. 2 girlfriends by your 30s, that's fine. There's this big thing now where people think their numbers are low if they've only been with 2 people or 3 people in their 30s. That actually, maybe if you had 2 long-term relationships, you're doing better than a lot of people. So it's not something that I do easily. We just clicked on all levels: attraction, connection. I know I could trust her. I know these are the 3 pillars you mentioned in a relationship. Yep, that's true. So we knew each other through work before dating, and always had a good connection there, but never pushed it into dating. Then I ran into her at lunch, and we kind of took off from there. She was about 2 months out of a 1 year relationship with a guy that was highly insecure, and she was hurt by the fact that she couldn't fix him, and annoyed also he kept putting her down. I actually learned a lot from my breakup years ago, from your advice and all the research I did, so I felt I knew where she was coming from, and she didn't overdo it by talking about him. All right, so sometimes people will go, oh, it's a rebound or a monkey branch. A 1 year relationship shallow.
Mhm.
So whatever happened in that, and she wants to talk about it a bit, but she's not overdoing it.
It wasn't over.
By the way, if you've gone through a tough breakup, sometimes some people wouldn't agree with this, but it's a bonding thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll listen to what happened, as long as it doesn't turn into like, oh, he just texted me. Oh, like, oh, actually, and then they bring it up all the time. If she just tells you what happened, that's actually healthy to know what happened in her past relationship. And I'd also give her credit for the fact that she didn't carry on a bad relationship. I felt like she was clear on why they broke up, and was even kind of scared of the guy. So I never see this guy as a future threat. That worries me, that she'd be scared of the guy. If it was a live coaching session, I'll ask you a few more questions about that. And we were just getting along so well. I mean, the fact that she's scared of the guy, I'd want to know what happened, because that could bubble up in your relationship. If she was scared by a past guy, that's a sensitive thing for women, and so you could do something that the other guy did, and then she could be scared of you, right? And we were just getting along so well. We clicked on everything. We could even talk about our jobs with excitement, as we were both teachers. So we just geeked out on teacher talk. Wow, I could relate to teacher talk. I honestly thought I could be with this woman a long term. Right before the first lockdown where we lived, we were pretty much seeing each other every day for 3 weeks or so. It's like our relationship had just kicked into the next level, like the beginning of a honeymoon phase. Here's the thing: I was only a couple months removed from a relationship that ended for the right reasons, but we did live together, and the breakup wasn't that easy for both of us. We still saw each other, and I was okay with that. I was spinning about 4 plates post breakup. So this is okay. So you've read Rollo Tomasi's Rational Male. I felt good. For anyone that doesn't know what that meant, basically he's saying that he's seeing 4 different women, or talking to 4 different women. I felt good about that, and I was not committed to any, and they knew that. But this one I'm writing about was the real contender. Good word. I was willing to drop the other plates and go all in eventually. Then when the lockdown came, she had to teach online immediately, and felt like it would be best if she stayed with her family for a few weeks. Those few weeks turned into months, and eventually she got trapped there. We were never officially together, but something happened, and we just decided to cut ties. Again, this is where I would ask you, well, what happened? But I'm assuming the distance played a role. The drama of the pandemic played a role. You actually just started something, so it's a little bit more fragile in the beginning to not keep it going. And I don't really believe in long distance relationships. I do think that there are times when you do want to give them a shot, when you've been together for a while, not 3 weeks, and you do want to see if it can work. But if it's not working, it's better to abort early, which sounds like what you did here. I wasn't too upset, as there wasn't too much time invested. I accepted it and just moved on. But from time to time, I'd wonder about her. Then out of the blue, she called me a few months ago and said she got a new job, which was very close to where I live. Okay. See, this is one of those things that this guy, he had some other plates he was spinning. He wasn't highly insecure, so when they broke it off, he was able just to clear the decks, be okay with it, and that actually leaves the door open for her coming back or having it open. What are you laughing about?
Chuck just says I spin basketballs like the Globetrotters.
So, thanks, Chuck. So I accepted and just moved on, but from time to time I'd wonder about her. Then out of the blue, she called me a few months ago and she said she got a new job that was very close to where I live. We had a good talk, nothing too dramatic, no blaming or talking about the past. Sounds good to me. Then I asked her out and she said she wouldn't have time to do that now. Bam! Bam, bam! It was strange because I assumed she called me to resume where we left off. We'll never assume. It makes an ass out of you, right? So I would say that her saying she didn't have time doesn't mean she just flat out rejected you. She called you. You guys had something going in the past. Nothing was bad about that relationship or ended too bad. It was circumstances and timing. So the fact that she just told you she didn't have time right now might have been the real answer. Sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh, she doesn't want to see me. It's actually maybe she really is busy. And the way our talk was going, she seemed happy to talk to me again. Again, I just accepted that she was busy and we didn't talk again for a month. Well, probably you're thinking, well, I don't want to push too hard because she just rejected me on going out. And maybe you just maybe there was a misunderstanding there that she just moved. Maybe she has a new job. Maybe she's a bit overwhelmed. Her reaching out to you is something though, and the fact that you didn't push harder in that month means that you're probably spinning a couple plates now, if I had to guess. Then out of the blue, she asked me to meet her for breakfast at a shop close to me. She gave me no notice, and I was busy, so I told her I couldn't. And if we could meet up for dinner this next week, she replied she was too busy. See, this is puzzling to you because you're like, what is this crap? It sounds like it sounds like to me that you both aren't desperate to get this thing going. She might really be busy, right? And you also won't chase. Again, this puzzled me. If she wanted to go out, wouldn't she come up with a time or day she's available? Well, I mean, it depends. Is she a spontaneous person? Is she into adventure? Is this part of her nature? There's some people that are spontaneous. It definitely isn't a negative thing that she wanted to meet you at a time. She wants to see you. She wants to, be around you. Again, I left it alone. Again, she called me out of the blue to arrange a meetup again. This time I wasn't available for that time. She said, oh, I guess it's just not meant to be. I found it dramatic. That is dramatic.
I guess it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. It sounds like I would be curious if she's a bit younger than you. You say I'm in my late 30s. This kind of behavior is a bit immature, if I had to say. There's 7 days in a week. So recently I asked her through text again. She said she was busy. So you said there's 7 days in a week. So recently I asked her out through text again. She said she was busy, but this time she came back with another time and I accepted. So what it sounds like to me is everything's in her frame. Everything's like, all right, I'll make the date and time. And if I'm not available, then I'm not available. And this is something you're not used to. It seems like she wants everything in her frame. Okay, that's what I just said. The crazy thing is, it wasn't like this at all when we were seeing each other. So what's the hesitation? Question mark. That's a good question. I'm a little puzzled myself. I'd say that she's most likely busy. You didn't really go into details on how you did break off that part. She might be a little hesitant because she was more hurt than you think. You act like, oh, I had 4 plates spinning. I was okay with it. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she's a little scared. And her controlling when and where you meet and what time makes her feel better about that. Why isn't she making more of an effort? Basically, to her, she's making an effort and you're just not available on her time. And like I said, you could just be taking that she's busy as something that's not true when it really is true. If we were in a live coaching session, I'd be like, what does she do for a job? What does she do in her spare time, right? And maybe she's just not up for a relationship right now the way you are. Should I just confront her and tell her I'm interested? Why isn't she making more of an effort? Should I just confront her and tell her I'm interested in a serious relationship with her, and cut the games? No, no, no. That's. She's not going to go. Oh, okay, I'll stop playing the games. When do you want to go out? What do you really want? You want to go out with her, right? If you want to go out with her, right now you guys have this little dance going back and forth. You haven't messed up in any way. You haven't been needy, clingy, or weak. You've asked her out. She said she's busy, which doesn't mean no. You have a past with her that was really good, so that's something to go on. She reached out to you first when she came back. That's something good to go on. She's called you a few times spontaneously to meet up, so you're on her mind. It's maybe just timing right now. So I'd say I wouldn't just ask her out every week, but if you want to ask her out again and not be attached to it because you're spinning other plates, fine. And if she says, "Oh, I'm busy this week," or this or that, you can continue the dance. But the minute you drop the hammer and go, "Hey, look, I want to stop ending games. I'm looking for a serious relationship," she's going to go, "Okay, I wasn't even looking for anything serious." Yeah, she's going to put it back in her frame. So I wouldn't do that. I don't think you're in a bad position the way you are. And if you really just want to lay off, it sounds like she'll call you because that's what she's done repeatedly. But here's the thing. When you ask me what's her hesitation, like I said, I don't know if it's her job or how much she was hurt before. But if I had to guess, something about what happened in your relationship before, she doesn't trust you. She doesn't trust you. So she wants to see you. And a lot of women, especially if this woman's younger than your 30s, depending on the day and time and where she's at, she might go, "Oh, I really miss him." And then 2 days later, it's like, "Oh, yeah, when we broke up, that was shit." And some people are like that. And I would need to ask you more questions about her. All right, let's check in with the live stream here. Tushy Tickler, is it true that you don't use it, you lose it? I don't know what that's in relationship to.
Tushy Tickler?
Yeah. People always underestimate quality of relationships and overestimate quantity. Number of relationships doesn't mean anything, which I agree with you. That's a really good way to put it, Modern Shrink. A really good way to put it. And you don't realize that until you're older, I think. I'm not sure how old you are, Martin Shrink. That's so true.
There's a lot of emphasis. It's today's day and age, social media, everything. It's like how many people you can,
yeah, we were talking about this before the live stream. We were talking about this before the live stream that I'm thinking about doing some reaction videos about some other YouTube channels and just giving my take, not to blow people up, but just give my take on it. And one of these videos had these guys going around asking random individual what their body count was, so how many people they slept with, men and women. And it was kind of funny because there was numerous guys in their late 20s to early 30s that's just how they looked. There's other people like, "Oh, I've been with 200," or like making a joke out of it. And there's people but there men and women that were low numbers were embarrassed. They were like, "Actually, you know what? I haven't gone around. I haven't got that." Like, they were embarrassed.
Women too. Like,
women were too. Like, "Oh, only," and then they go, "Something like 3." It's like, it's not something like.
Okay.
When you get to 3, you know it's 3, right?
Yeah.
But it was almost like, it's like, "Hey, okay," right? All of them thought that they were behind what everyone else was at. And I get this sometimes when I talk to people in breakups. I'm like, everyone thinks that they kind of are like less experienced or haven't had. People will tell me, "Oh, I wish I just had a normal relationship." There's no such thing. And what would be the normal number of people that you've slept with by the age of 28? I don't know. I mean, what's it to you? I would say this: quality over quantity. But I think when you're younger, you think quantity is ego based. Right? So, 1-year relationship are a dime a dozen. We are not designed to swap and change. We are not designed to swap and change. What are we designed for, if I may ask? I'll jump on that one. The guy she broke up with that scared her. Okay, what if she's scared of the other guy finding out? I didn't think of that, Chuckster. Could be, or she still got feelings for the other guy. Go ahead.
She's just kind of like reaching out, seeing.
Well, what people don't realize that women are more emotional, men are more rational, and that can be debated all day, every day. And there's exceptions to the rule, right? There's some men that are more emotional than rational, and there's some women that are more rational than emotional, right? They're called tomboys usually, right? But when you look at it, someone that they're not in a serious relationship, she could just have a Saturday where she's like, I'm gonna call. It's just spontaneous, and it's like we had something in the past, and like it just hasn't lined up, right? I reckon we'll run it as long and as best as you can, then next. If it was only that simple, right? I like the simplicity. I like this simplicity, but if it was only that simple, just to not be entangled in your feelings, right? I wish you could just. Oh, it was like, oh yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm done. It's curtains. Let's just move on to the next one, like the movies. There was a movie. Have you ever seen that series You?
No.
With the serial killer guy?
I heard it was.
You didn't watch that?
No, I didn't watch it.
Wow, that's one of the last things. I haven't watched a whole lot of Netflix recently, but that was a good one. Anyone see You? So this guy's a extremely intelligent. Basically, I guess you'd call him. I don't know if you call him a serial killer. I don't want to get too deep into that part. But he had. The other part of it is he pulled some really like hot women or good-looking women on the show, and they were his girlfriend. And he had these weird relationships. So he has this breakup. This is so Hollywood, right? On the series, he has this breakup, and within the same week of the breakup, his neighbor comes over in the apartment building, and it's like just like, hey, what's up? And it's just like they end up being a couple right away. And it's just like it just doesn't happen that way. Your neighbor next door is, and by the way, she's single too. She's interested. Yeah, and it just lines up perfect for him. It's just like, oh yeah, this is how it usually works. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're 27 years old and you're a shrink. Wow, that's an achievement. All right, this one was just a short question, but we'll get into it. Coach, I need your help, man. I broke up with my ex 2 months ago. We went out 2 days ago and had a good time and even hooked up. And then I asked her, had she been with anyone else since me and her broke up? She asked why I had to ask that. So this has come up many times. The reason you have to ask that is ego. It's your girlfriend. So something part of your psyche wants to know. It really wants to know. But I would say if you want to get back together, you don't want the answer to that question. You don't want the answer to that question. I said, I just want to know. She then asked me the same question. I immediately lied and said no one. She responded with, I know you're lying. I asked her again. She said, look, I've been on a couple dates and I'll leave it at that. I don't drink. I didn't think I have to give you the details. I let it go, but it's been eating at me all day. We're going out tomorrow. Don't you think I have a right to know? Will this blow us getting back together? So this is an interesting, because I almost feel like I've read this question before. Yeah. I have read this question before.
Yeah, I think you might have been the last one.
I've read this question before, and it is going to blow up in your face.
Yeah.
The girlfriend has 2 sons, 27, 22. They're all over the relationship besides run. Any advice? The girlfriend has 2 sons, and they're all over the relationship besides run. Any advice? Pro theologist, I just need to know more about the relationship. That's not enough information. The sons are 27 and 22. Man, I would say this. This might sound random. How are their lives as individuals, the sons? Are they drug addicts? Are they doing pretty well for themselves? Are they latched on to the mom? Um,
Yeah, there's a lot.
you know what I mean?
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Like I've had clients before where the kids still live at home. They have a drug issue. That's not going away.
Are they doctors or what's?
Yeah, and what are their problems with your relationship? So one thing is people generally will choose their kids over a relationship. The kids aren't going away, and so you're gonna have to deal with that. If you're gonna make anything work, you're gonna have to deal with it. That's a pretty big sacrifice, and you have to figure is it fixable? So someone I had a relationship situation similar to this had asked me. Um, had complained about the kids, but they hadn't moved in together yet. I'm like, once you move in together, that'll get really bad. So your roommates' problems become your problems. I learned that in college. Your partner's problems will become your problems. Your partner's kids will become your kids. And you might go, no, not really. You're right. They won't become your kids, but they will become a big part of your life. Because even if they don't live with you, your partner's going to be talking about them all the time. And so if they have issues or they're in trouble, they need money, that's a big one. They live in the house. There you go. They live in the house. And I had a moment where she was rude and confronted the issue. That they're two stoners and have insecurities about mom not being attentive to them. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about this.
Not being attentive to them in 22
It's an epidemic right now. So there's an epidemic right now where people, like, if you don't move out of your house at a certain age, for some period of time, and you become a career kid. So so you need to move out of the house at a certain time and live on your own. And if you don't, and I've known people like this. My mom's got friends that this happened to, and if they get into their 30s, it's done. It's done. Because it becomes kind of like a bird in the nest that you're like, oh, I can't let him out. He doesn't know how to fly. He never will. So, and that's what they get to a certain age like that. They've never hit a hard time or anything like that. So you're either going to have to accept that and deal with it because she's not going to kick them out. Especially 27, 22 might still have a chance. Do they have any, aspirations to do anything? It's going to blow you. If you're the type that's a hard worker and have worked for your money and we're out of the house by 20, 25, 22, you can't relate. You're going to bump heads with these kids all day, every day. And you're probably going to be more patient in the beginning.
It's just going to wear over time.
I've never heard that before. My dad's a duck hunter too.
He's something.
It's just a choice, pro theologist. That's all it is. There's always a trade-off. So your trade-off is, do I want to deal with these two stoner boys so I can have a relationship with this woman? Now here's the thing. A lot of times in the beginning, guys will because intimacy is good. I'm just saying.
Right.
The longer you're together, if you go through a period of time where and then what happens when you want, like if you're living in the same house, if you want to reprimand them or say something to them, and they don't line up with you, I would say you're better off. I would say if you're going to have a relationship with a woman like this, don't live with her. Keep it to we're going to meet up and we're not going to live together. And if down the road you want to move in with me, or we can get our own place, and you want to let the kids stay in the house, fine. But you don't want to live with them. It's not, and someone will go, oh, I wouldn't do that either. I'm just saying that would be a better alternative. Right? That would be a better alternative. You don't want to, especially, look, I don't have kids, right? But if I did, and my kids were in their 20s, and they were living at my house, there should be some kind of aspiration on the horizon in the next year or 2 years or 3 years, and that's okay. But they're your kids. Someone else's kids that you never even helped raise or you don't have a relationship with, you can't build that in.
At that age?
No, you can't build it in. You could, because you could like them if they related to you. Like you're like, oh, this is a hardworking kid. I remember when I was like this. Oh, the kid's going into the army. Oh, I went into the army. Then you can kind of be like, get behind them. If you're like, oh man, they're just stoners or this or that, right? So
Depends on the relationship you have. I mean, if there's some relationship there with them, you can kind of maybe help.
well, I've seen before where a woman was extremely wealthy. I mean, extremely rich, and had multiple kids. One like I think two kids from a prior relationship and a adopted kid, and had a boyfriend that lived with her that was a little younger. Now everyone goes. Now, I was over at this house for a barbecue or two, and it just seemed like the guy was checked out on the kid, like he wasn't really into it. But guess what? She didn't seem bothered by it because she has like a nanny and 15 maids, right? Whatever. That's a trade-off. He probably said, "Well, I'm gonna have a relationship with her anyways because I don't have to worry about the financial part of it." And the kids were like in private school, and think about those like really wealthy families. The interesting thing about wealthy families is they have so much money for activities and lessons. They actually spend less time with their parents.
They're always doing.
Have you ever
Yeah.
like? I'm serious.
Right.
I'm serious, and I think it's cool. Like if I had the money and I had kids, like to put them in martial arts or yoga or swim lessons, I think that's cool. But I mean,
You gotta find a balance too.
you got to find a balance. Yeah, I think there's a lot of if you're able to, if you have that much money and you have some kids and you can go, wow, I can just make this my whole life
Right.
and be able to drive. Like that's the privilege, man. That's what always gets me, right? But what do I know? I don't have any kids. When questioning a relationship, whether to stay or end the relationship, I always ask, how is this relationship serving you? Great question. Why are you in it? I always ask people in breakups, I mean, like I said, what's the ideal situation? And then when they want to contact their ex, I always ask, what's your intention? That's the biggest question. Modern shrink, where are you at in the world, if I may ask? If you are a modern shrink, maybe we can get you on the show or the live stream one time. So another way to reframe that question also would be, what are you getting out of it, right? What are you getting out of this relationship? Like the great David Hawkins says about letting go. You feel like I can't let go, I can't let go, I can't let go, I can't let go. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what am I getting out of not letting go? It's an interesting question, huh? California? Where in California? I'm from the Bay Area originally. And I lived in San Diego for 4 or 5 years. Ozzy on deck, another shrimp on the barbie. Actually, just had a couple coaching clients this month from Australia. I'm a marriage and family therapist. What modern shrink? What do you think about the works of? Uh, just drew a blank. Doesn't happen often. Milton Erickson. I'd say that's one of my favorite therapists right now, Milton Erickson. I've read a lot on him. There's a book by Jay Haley that you might want to check out. I don't have my phone in front of me to show you it. Jay Haley. I think it's called An Uncommon Therapy. The Uncommon Therapy. Really interesting. Really interesting. I think the approaches he takes is going to be much different than a lot of other people's. Reddit. Okay, got it. Jay Haley, The Uncommon Therapy. I like Milton Erickson. Some people that are therapists, it's funny, Milton Erickson, just to give you some background on him, you'd know more than I do since you're a certified, I'm assuming certified marriage and family therapist. Maybe more well-read in this field. Some of the stories people find hard to believe because he has this alternative way of doing things where one of the things about Milton Erickson that stood out is that he didn't believe in focusing on the past so much. And so labels and past things, he would just get into the present and try to figure out how to work from there. I use EFT, emotion focus therapy. I think of EFT as the emotional freedom technique, the tapping. Emotion focus therapy, I've heard of that through another client of mine. I'm gonna have to look deeper into that. I don't work with couples, so we see everyone. We see everyone, not just couples. We see individuals as well. Just to FYI, okay. Do you, Modern Shrink? Do you enjoy what you do? Man, this day and age to be a marriage and family therapist. Woo, man. I've had because I just deal with people one-on-one out of a breakup, so it's pretty. It's a different dynamic for sure, right? But I've known two guys that that's when they got divorced. They went to marriage, like and you know what I call a marriage therapist? It's a good referee.
Sure.
Think about that.
Yeah.
It's a good referee because I'll say, it's like, what do you get a lawyer for? It's a referee, right? Expensive referee. But a marriage therapist is the same thing. It's like, hey, and the thing is, I always tell people this too, Modern Shrink. I just told someone on the live coaching earlier. I say, hey, look, if you don't like your therapist or something like that, get a different one. Don't blame it on therapy. A lot of people go, oh, therapy doesn't work. Find a different therapist, right? Sometimes you're not the person for that couple or that group because you don't line up. Rapport is big, man. Having a good rapport. One of the benefits of what I do is people choose me through YouTube so they can find if they like my style or my personality. Obviously, earlier on in the live stream, someone didn't like me. Water on a duck's back, right? It's like you see stuff like that and you're like, wow, man, okay, right on. Cool, man. Dropping in on live streams. Ooh, cool, man. You got your words in, and no one can see you. Well, the amount of people that are, I mean, really, I got one for you, Modern Shrink, and whoever else is listening. I've talked about this before, so Rob will find it redundant. What's the alternative to marriage? It's a great question, man. Because think about it. Boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage. It's
big.
Isn't it a big leap?
Sure. Find some.
Even if someone says they're with someone for 8 years but they haven't been married, I guess I know some people like that have been together, like 10 years, 12 years, and they always are like, oh, we're not married for financial reasons, or they have a reason or something, right? Whatever. But they're married. Live a married life. But I think it's just that they don't want that label, I guess. But it's a pretty big jump. If someone says I'm married compared to like, this is my girlfriend. So what's the alternative? What's the middle ground? The 4-year sex contract. The 4-year sex contract. Partnerships to me is the middle ground. Partnerships meaning like boyfriend, girlfriend.
Or like that long term. Like we're not married,
Autonomy. I mean, it's just there. Why can't there be a middle one, right?
Yeah.
Why can't be there a AA and a AAA?
You get a yeah.
Let me ask you this, Modern Shrink. This is a ground. Wow. Do you want to call in right now? I might have to get you to call in for this question. I can call you in on Skype if you want to talk, Modern Shrink. This is a good question I would ask a marriage counselor. I find I've talked to a lot of people in their breakups that they've gone through a phase where they've gone basically sexless or no intimacy for years for the kids. Now, this isn't every relationship, but it's very, very common. or to a point where it's like once a month and once. It's just very common, and they've just accepted it. Is there some kind of thing in the future where we could accept the fact that you could maybe stay together and be okay with having a side piece? Well, like everyone goes, oh, because I've had clients that are like they're in relationships where someone's accepted that, and it worked good.
An open relationship.
Because Modern Shrink, you probably don't get these people, but I get affairs. I get affairs, and I get people that are like those are obviously not usually on the public stories, but there's some shit that's going on behind people's backs where I'm like, damn, that's gutty. That's gutty because you're like people, and it's usually always people they work with.
Is that close relationship that they have?
He said, if you're in an open relationship, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say him because Modern Shrink, you could be a man or a woman. I apologize. If you are in an open relationship or both parties agree, then that's okay for you. I see cheater and polyamory couples all the time. Wow. So what's one of the biggest problems, Modern Shrink, that you see in marriage now that depletes marriage? I apologize because I said he a couple times. Excuse me, miss. Right? What do you see that is one of the biggest problems? I often think that if you, and this isn't necessarily doable for everyone, but it seems like a lot of couples are doing separate rooms right now. Thanks, Chuckster. A lot of them are doing separate rooms right now. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I know a few guys that are like, yeah, we just have separate rooms. But who's in charge? Polyamory is a growing thing, it seems. Sure. Here's a big question. Were human beings meant to be monogamous? It's real. Because they'll be like, oh no, we're social creatures, we're this.
And then we put in this marriage thing.
Yeah. I got to read that book. Rich Cooper recommends a book. You probably read it, Rob. I forgot what it is. It's something about the history of marriage. And I know this from history and stuff that marriage was done with families and the idea that, in-laws and wealth and taking care of each other. I don't know if that's human based. That's commerce based, right? But are we encouraging or supporting the idea of marriage when it's really not working in modern world? So that could we provide an alternative that's more well supported? That's what I want to say. Or an alternative to marriage the way it is now, where it's just like better never do that, better never do this, better never do that, till death do us part. Right? I don't know. Not discussing their phase of life. People change their ideas and thoughts based on their phases in life. I'm seeing a pattern. Well, phases in life have to do with environments, job changes, friends changes.
Right. Things are always moving.
Yeah. But here's the biggest one, Modern Shrink, and you might be able to relate to this at 27. You have this all the time. People go, you're the average of your 5 best friends, or the people. Now, I'm going to be saying this a lot. You might be the average of the 5 places you get the most content from. People are way more influenced by content than their actual friends, probably. Think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. And I would add music. So if you're a music person, the genre of music you listen to affects things. But if you're following a certain person or this, that, or the other, and, some people that follow, everyone's different. But content is thrown in there now. Or if you're just the person that just gets content suggested. Who is the author? It's a woman. I don't know. Rich Cooper mentions it quite a bit. I forgot what it's called. It's something about marriage. It's got to be on my list, but it's the history of how marriage worked and whatnot. Content influences likely satisfies a false identity that one wants to assume, which is very common on Instagram. Man, it is, huh? Where many people think they can be our celebrity. I would say that in a way that you're a junior celebrity if you have a certain amount of followers or whatnot. I'm not saying that's a desirable place to be necessarily, but I'm saying that it you qualify that there's a lower league of celebrity where it was just either you're super famous before or you're not. Now you can be like, oh wow, you have 20,000 followers. There's got to be, right? All right. Anyone have any closing questions here? Any closing questions? Modern Shrink, thanks for joining. Chuckster, thanks for joining. Stephanie Kuntz, I think it is Stephanie Kuntz, yes. That sounds like the name that he mentioned. I'm not sure of the name of the book. It was something in regards to marriage. Pro-theologist, it's not easy, my friend, but if you maybe want to take 2 steps back on that relationship and say, I'm going to stay in my own place if you can afford it. And we can continue to see each other, but you're not going to live with those kids. Chuckster, always a pleasure. Bob I.S. Cordell, thanks for joining. Freddy Krueger. Laura Helm. Lucky Ducky Daisy Flowers. So what? Good for you. Say something. Be someone. Nav, welcome. How many people are a content mix of Cooper, Rollo, Tomasi? I don't know. I think now what people will probably do is no one will be completely loyal to one place because you're just exposed to so much, right? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying, bro? Like you used to do. Okay, Channel 7, my TV show's on. I'm gonna watch Cheers at 11, right? And then there would be nothing in the sidebar. But now, even if you search your favorite thing, there'll be suggestions. So you're gonna be, victim to like, all right, I gotta watch this. Yeah, that's what I think, Chuckster. Chuckster, we still got to get your story at some point. We got to talk, bud. I haven't forgot about that. All right, folks, it's curtains. Take it easy, take it slow. Keep being you.
There you go.